Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Malhotra IAS. As you all know that we have come up with a new series. It's been more than a week now, and this is the second week in which we are going to cover up our articles which are related to the geography, environment and sci-tech. So today we will be taking up 3 or 4 articles which are most relevant to the examination point of view, and those articles which have been covered in the newspapers. We take up articles from PIB, the Hindu, Times of India as well as the Indian Express, and we come up with the most relevant articles and we discuss these articles in a comprehensive manner. Today we will be taking up articles that are related with the tigers, especially with respect to environment, ecology, as well as some of the articles which are related with the forest fires that have been in news. And as spring season is yet to begin, so forest fires are one of the biggest threats. There has been news articles which has been published, so we'll be dealing up with these articles in detail. So let's begin with today's session. My name is Madhusudan Reddy and let's begin. Today's first article which we will be dealing with is how many tigers are too many tigers. This is an article that has been published in the Indian Express newspaper. Along with this article, there are a couple of other articles which have been talking about the tigers, that is Sariska wears the stripes of success. And there's also another article, Satkosia making fresh attempts to become a sustainable tiger habitat. Whenever an article comes up in one newspaper, if a series of articles are also seen based on that article, then those articles turn out to be very important. So tigers, as you all know, one of the important species. These species are very important for the examination as well. Tigers are generally considered to be the species that are umbrella species. Umbrella species means when you tend to protect one particular species which is on the higher strata, you automatically protect the entire forest area. This I have been telling you for many number of times. I am reiterating and repeating this, right? So let us see the context of the article here. How many tigers are too many tigers? There are some reports which are suggesting that Sundarbans, the region which is in the West Bengal and the Bangladesh region, the tiger carrying capacity of that particular region has been at its peak. It is said that beyond this saturation limit, no more tigers can be sustainable in living in that habitat. So we'll look into what exactly are the reasons for the carrying capacity the fulling of its carrying capacity, and we'll also understand what are the measures that need to be taken as well as what are the solutions that one had to look into. Before that, as an aspirant, what we have to look into is where exactly these kind of articles fall into our syllabus. So firstly, if you look into the syllabus, you'll have a component in your preliminary examination which says that current events of national and international importance. So in the current events of national and international importance, tiger every now and then you get to see them. Secondly, in the mains examination in your general studies paper 3, there is a separate column of syllabus which talks about conservation, environmental pollution and degradation, environmental impact assessment. So this is where this particular article fits into our syllabus. So from this article, what one should study is that Project Tiger and NTCA, what exactly it is. Secondly, the map that is associated with the problem that came into the newspaper, especially which talked about Sundarbans and the area around the Sundarbans, mapping point of view. And the third point which we have to deal with is the section 38 subclause 5, which talks about the Wildlife Protection Act, and it also talks about the National Tiger Conservation Authority and the Tiger Planning Authority, right? Along with this, Conservation Assured Tiger Standards, this is called SCATS. And Wildlife Institute of India, it is under which ministry? Along with that, we have to understand the difference between extinct in the wild and critically endangered species, right? And the last one is the reasons behind the conflict for human and animal conflicts. So let us quickly delve into this article. Before we dwell into this article, let me take up few quick facts. Today we will be dealing with the tiger as a component whole. Once for all, we will be dealing with this in detail, right? So some quick facts here. In the facts, the highest number of tigers you get to see in the Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh has the highest number of tigers, that is with 526 tigers, and next to Madhya Pradesh is your Karnataka, right? Karnataka is next to Madhya Pradesh with only a difference of 2 in number. So when a question is asked which state has the highest number of tigers, it is Madhya Pradesh, not the Karnataka. And these tiger census has been taken in 2018, but tiger census generally is calculated, it is calculated every 4 years. 2018 में census लिया गया था. Now in 2022 you can expect the new census to be coming up, right? So as of now the highest number of tigers are found in Maharashtra, in Madhya Pradesh. So there has been news articles which says that the carrying capacity of the Sundarbans have been reached to its fullest capacity, right? So look at the map of the Sundarbans. You can see that if this is the India and Bangladesh border, Sundarbans, the extension of Sundarbans you can actually see into Bangladesh as well as India. So for human beings we know that this is the border, but how does the animals get to know that this is the border and they should not cross this line? So those protection of wildlife Protection Act is rights which are given to the humans to protect the tigers. The tiger doesn't know that they do have these kind of laws, or they do have to demarcate within the international boundaries. They tend to move from one country to another country, right? So conjointly the Wildlife Institute of India, which said that now the tiger carrying capacity in the Sundarbans has reached to its full. It means that it also gave an example stating that on an average only 2.5 tigers can actually sustain in the 100 square kilometer area. 100 square kilometer area, only 2.5 tigers can sustain. This is said by the Wildlife Institute of India. Along with this, there is another report which has also said conjointly Bangladesh and India together, they have done a study in 2019 and they said that the maximum potential of the Sundarbans is only 5 tigers which for 100 square kilometers area. But when you look into the differences of this carrying capacity in various parts of the country, there is a change in the difference and the number. Especially in the central part of India and the western part of India, which is in the Western Ghats, you get to see the tiger carrying capacity is somewhere around 10 to 11. That means if you see the Western Ghats region where the Bandipur and other tiger reserves are present, here the carrying capacity is little more. As well as if you look into the central part, which is your central and the western part, which is your Jim Corbett National Park, here 10 to 11 tigers per 100 square kilometers area you can see. So now multiply this with the area of the forest area in total. So if you take that into consideration, Sundarbans as an area can actually accommodate not more than 80 to 86 tigers. So 80 to 86 tigers is very big, which is 2,300 square kilometers of area, right? And Sundarbans, if you look into the map here, these Sundarbans are rich in mangrove forests, which mangrove forests are not contiguous forests. There is series of water bodies you get to see between these mangrove forests. So it is difficult for the tigers to pass from one area to another area. Meanwhile, the tigers also restrict themselves to one particular location itself, right? So the tigers tend to live in clusters. Though tiger is a water moving species, but they tend to stick to one particular area. Now imagine, let me try to explain you the analogy with an analogy here. Imagine there is an apartment, right, of 100 square kilometers or of 1000 square feet. In this 50 odd people has to live, right? Imagine 50 people are living and these 50 people have demarcated their territory and they are not allowed to go out of this particular area, right? Now you construct a small road here, now start to construct small roads here. As and when roads are constructed or some small pathways, along with this, now what you do is you also set up some kind of infrastructure in this region, right? Now that you also won't allow people to go out of this particular area, what happens? In this situation, the human being who is present here will feel suffocated, whose productivity rate comes down, as well as whenever the productivity rate comes down, the lifespan of the human beings also falls drastically. The same analogy you tend to apply to the forest as well. when you apply this to the forest, if you do not allow the tigers to move from this particular square area, and you also demarcated small areas and you are not allowing the tigers to move out, that is when tigers tend to suffocate. And the gene pool of these tigers, those tigers which are present in this area, if they are not allowed to go out, the mating happens between those tigers which are present here. The gene pool is very much confined. When this gene pool is confined, any small diseases or any threat to one single tiger can also lead to the extinction of this particular geographical territorial area. So that's how difficult it would be for a tiger when the territorial demarcations takes place, right? Now let us further more look into the numbers that I have given here. From preliminary examination point of view, these can be the areas that can be asked. See, the highest density of the tiger population you get to see in the Jim Corbett area, and next to Jim Corbett it is in Kaziranga. Kaziranga, which is part of your Assam, there you get to see the highest number of tiger density, right? And look, the Corbett National Park. Your Corbett National Park is actually present in Uttarakhand. Next to Jim Corbett National Park, you get to see Rajaji National Park, right? And in the there is a small corridor that is present between Jim Corbett National Park and Rajaji National Park. So tigers can actually move from one national park to another national park. When you have series of national parks or series of tree cover, this tiger movement is very easy, so that these tigers can actually move from one place to another place. And tiger density depends on three different factors. The first factor is prey, space, and as well as the relation between the interconnectivity of ecology and biodiversity that is present there. If you do not have enough prey, the tigers will start to move from one place to another place. And if you have enough prey there, tiger tends to stay and it demarcates its territory, and once it demarcates its territory, the productivity of the tiger also increases. So if you look into the numbers, of the tigers, back in 2006 only there were 1411 tigers were there, but now the last census which we took up in the year 2018, almost we have more than doubled the number of tigers. How did we do this? We have done this by setting up an authority called NTCA, National Tiger Conservation Authority. Along with that, we have also took up the standards for cats. Cats is nothing but one of an organizational standards. If we meet the standards of this tiger protection area, kuch aise standards if we tend to follow, then we will be given an authority, we will be given a designation as cats. Conservation Assured Tiger Reserves or Conservation Assured Tiger Standards. Those kind of standards which we have taken and we have moved further. So in this context, we should also learn what exactly is NTCA, that is National Tiger Conservation Authority, and what are the objects of the National Tiger Conservation Authority. National Tiger Conservation Authority is a statutory body. It has been set up under an act, and this act is your Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. So it also, when this body has been set up, it has been given certain kinds of functions, roles and responsibilities. If you look into the roles and responsibilities as well as the objectives of the NTCA, the primary objective of the NTCA is to provide statutory authority to any tiger related activity which they do. So it means that the Project Tiger, it has a compliance. If that compliance is not met, there can be punishments that can be taken if someone has not done the activity which has to be done under the National Tiger Conservation Authority Act, right? The second thing is fostering accountability of center states in management of tiger reserves by providing a basis for MOU with states within our federal structure. Suppose as you all know, the forest is a concurrent subject. It is the state government who actually at the ground level manages the forest with the help of the centrally aided officers. So state governments and central governments, they have to work in tandem in order to keep the forest at a safer level. When you keep this forest at a safer level, along with that ecosystem and ecology as well as overall the biodiversity will be at a stable, in a sustainable way, right? Now the other function of the NTCA is to fostering accountability. If there is a MOU that has been set up between a center and a state, who takes care of the accountability of between a state and another organization, the NTCA also takes into consideration the accountability of that particular body. And it also looks into the oversight of the parliament, and it also addresses the interests of the people in assuring the areas around the tiger reserves. If there is a man-animal conflict between a tiger or any cats, NTCA not just looks after tigers, it also looks after most of other species as well. It does not signify only taking after a tiger. It also takes care of the entire ecosystem of that particular place, and if there is any case of man and animal conflict, then NTCA comes into picture and settle the disputes, right? It is also one of the objectives of the NTCA. Along with that, if you look into the functions of the NTCA, that is National Tiger Conservation Authority, it approves the plan which has been given or proposed by the state government. For example, if you have to designate a new tiger, a new area as a tiger reserve, is it the state government or the central government who has the authority to declare this area as a tiger reserve? If you know the answer, please comment it down. See, it is generally the state government. After state government proposes a plan, but ultimate authority lies with the central government after taking the views of the National Tiger Conservation Authority. So every state government has to give certain plan, that is tiger conservation plan. How are they going to protect these tigers and conserve the places and the areas of the tiger? And this plan is approved by the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Once it is approved, if they feel necessary that this area need to be designated as a tiger reserve, it is NTCA's approval, and after that the central government will decide, right? And these things have been clearly declared and mentioned under the 38, the subclause 5 of the Wildlife Protection Act, that is your 38(5), right? And the next factor of functions is that it also disallows ecologically unsustainable activities. Means what kind of activities need to be taken in that place and what kind of activities need not to be taken in that place. It is NTCA that decides whether it should be taken, these kind of activities need to be taken or not, right? Along with that, it also takes into considerations of the man-animal conflict, which I have already told you, and it also gives the information that it needs to enroll whenever there is any conservation efforts that it has been taken, right? Suppose there are tiger census that have been put into place. Those tiger census will not happen just in a month's period of time. It takes around an year time period to count the number of tigers, and they use various kinds of techniques. In this various kinds of technique, one such technique is that geotagging as well as neck tagging. Along with that, they also use the pug marks. So it is these pug marks which have to be mapped and it has to be digitized, so that next time whenever a new tiger's pug marks is found, to map it and digitally to get to know that okay, this is a different tiger and that is a different tiger. That's when the information sharing is also necessary and the protection measures are also taken place, right? Finally, the coordination as well as monitoring on tiger is also done by this NTCA. Now let's also discuss the CATS, that is CATS. CATS is nothing but Conservation Assured Tiger Standards. This Conservation Assured Tiger Standards we have taken in 2013. See, NTCA has been designated with the CATS. CATS is nothing but Conservation Assured Tiger Standards. If we maintain certain kinds of standards, then that particular tiger reserve will be designated as CATS. When CATS is designated, that means we are at the highest level of protection. That particular tiger reserve is at the highest level of protection, right? And in India, there are around 14 tiger reserves which has given the status of CATS. Now, who takes care of the implementation of the CATS? It is the World Wildlife Fund for Nature, that is WWF. Is WWF a United Nations organization? My question to you, if you know the answer, please comment it down. I'll be telling you about this answer after a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, if you know the answer, please post it in the comment box. See some other additional facts. You should also look into the Global Tiger Forum. What exactly is a Global Tiger Forum? Global Tiger Forum is one of the forum where all the tiger countries, nations come together, they sit together, they decide what are the best practices that has been put place in various parts of the world so that they can learn from each other. That is called Global Tiger Forum. It is also started in the year 1993, and now every year these Tiger Forum countries sit together and they discuss in detail about the conservation plans. Now there is also an initiative that is called Global Tiger Initiative, which has been launched in the year 2008 with the alliance of various governments, civil societies and women self-help groups, as well as other civil societies and organizations. They all come together to protect the tiger conservation area, right? I am talking about tiger conservation area. It's not just about tiger protection, it is the conservation area when you take the whole area into protection, right? So World Wildlife, the WWF, which you see, it is not a United Nations body, right? It is a non-governmental organization. It is a forum which is founded in the year 1961. It is one of the oldest body, and its headquarters is at Geneva, which is in, right? Now, along with this, there is also a recent study that has been published. This recent study says that the 19th meeting of the National Tiger Conservation Authority has been taken place, and this has been organized by the Ministry of Forestry and Climate Change. When this Ministry of Forestry and Climate Change has organized this, they have come to certain kinds of conclusions that the key points that they have discussed in this area is that tiger reserves and their conservations in India, there are around 51 tiger reserves which are to be conserved. Out of these 51, 14 tiger reserves are being credited with CATS. For preliminary examination, these 14 tiger reserves are very, very important, right? It is, we have to look into the map as well. Now, tiger reserves are not just confined for tigers. When along with this, there has been an atlas that has been released that is called Water Atlas. The Water Atlas has mapped what are the rivers that are flowing through these tiger reserves. Whenever a river that is flowing through the tiger reserves, that river also need to be protected. So the 19th meeting on the National Tiger Conservation Reserve has also given the rivers that need to be protected in the tiger reserves. So the list of rivers has also been given by them. That is called World Water Atlas or Indian Tiger Reserve Water Atlas. Let us quickly look into the World Water Atlas, what they have been talked about. Along with that, it also talked about regulating tourism activities in the tiger reserves, right? This is something from the mains perspective one can look into. Out of the total 50 tiger reserves, there are 35 odd major rivers. जो 35 odd major rivers है that passes through this tiger reserve. Especially it talked about Simlipal Tiger Reserve as well as Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, which are very much in use, along with the Jim Corbett Tiger Reserve. This Jim Corbett Tiger Reserve has the highest density, as well as it is also being discussed with the rivers that have been talked about. So please make sure to map it. The Jim Corbett Tiger Reserve is in Uttarakhand, as well as Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve is in your Karnataka, right? When you go Periyar Tiger Reserve, which was also in use, when the Periyar River, the Periyar Dam which has to be constructed, the breakage of the dam, Mulla Periyar Dam, this was also in use. So these kind of tiger reserves, whenever they are in use, please make sure to map them on which river they are present. There is no exaggeration when these kinds of questions can figure into your preliminary points, right? And it also talked about the translocation of the lions which are present in the Gir National Park. From Gir to, they have also thought about relocating the lions from Gujarat to Kuno Palpur Tiger Reserve. Kuno Palpur Tiger Reserve or Kuno National Park is present in your Madhya Pradesh. Once let us quickly look into the map of Madhya Pradesh and various hills that are present in the Madhya Pradesh, so that we could get a better idea. Your Kuno Palpur Tiger Reserve or Kuno National Park is present in the next to Madhav National Park. So if a corridor that can be created, Kuno to Madhav, the tigers can move very easily. Along with this, the Global Tiger Forum as well as NTCA in the 19th meeting, they have discussed about the relocation of the Asiatic cheetahs from the Africa to India. That too, this Kuno is the place where they have decided. Now first let us briefly look into the map here. The Madhya Pradesh actually has Aravallis on the western side, and on the eastern side you have Maikal ranges, you also have Satpuras, and you also have Vindhyas. Between these big hills which are block mountains, you get to see the major river that is flowing through, it is your Narmada, right? Your Narmada is flowing in the Rift Valley, and Madhya Pradesh being one of the state which accounts for 9 national parks, please make sure you remember them. That is Panna National Park, Bandhavgarh National Park and Sanjay National Park. Sanjay National Park is has the least number of density of tigers which we have seen in the previous map, right? So the relocation of the Kuno palpur tigers as well as, sorry, it's not tigers, it is cheetahs from Africa as well as lions from Gujarat. Why? Why does they have chosen Kuno palpur National Park or Kuno Wildlife Sanctuary as the area for translocating of the Asiatic cheetahs to this particular place? It is because the extinction of cheetahs took place only after the independence, that is in the year 1952 or somewhere around 1948 se lekar 52. But it is said that all the four big cats of India, they were found at one single location, that is called Kuno palpur National Park. That national park accounted for tigers, leopard, Asiatic lion as well as cheetahs. All these four big cats, they are called the four big cats. Those big cats were once lived in this Kuno National Park. That's why Kuno is also chosen for the same place where the tigers, the Asiatic cheetahs can be relocated from Africa to India, right? Now 8 to 12 cheetahs which are to be transferred from South Africa, that is Namibia, Botswana to Kuno palpur National Park in Madhya Pradesh. This could be the world's first intercontinental cheetah translocation, right? Intercontinental relocation of cheetahs, this is the world's first project. And I have also talked about the atlas, right? World Atlas, which talked about the rivers which have been mapped, right? It is done by the Ministry of Forestry and Climate Change. It has been done by the Geographic Information System mapping, that is GIS mapping system use kiya gaya. You should also look into the status of the Asiatic cheetah. The status of the Asiatic cheetah is critically endangered. See, Asiatic cheetahs in India are extinct, but this Asiatic cheetah in other parts of the world, they are present, especially in Iran. Before we start to think of relocating the cheetahs from your Africa to India, it was first thought that let us relocate the cheetahs from Iran. So Iran se lekar they thought of getting it to Kuno palpur Tiger Reserve, but the project has been failed because of the Supreme Court orders that the cheetahs are not, the cheetahs that we have identified are unfit in terms of health, as well as there were other sanctions which have been put on. That's why we did not get the cheetahs from Iran. It is Iran who have denied it. Again we went to Africa. From Africa we are planning to relocate it. Because of COVID, that particular relocation of the cheetahs has been put at halt, right? So our next article which talks about the forest fires. Forest fires, as you know, this is almost end of the winter. This is when you get to see the fall of all the spring season is yet to begin, and you also get to see certain kinds of leaves that are yet to fall, right? So forest fires as an article you get to see in various newspapers in the recent times. So first let us look into this article, where exactly it fits into our syllabus. See, it fits into our syllabus, especially from the preliminary point of view. There's a syllabus that talks about general issues on environmental ecology, biodiversity and climate change. And from the mains examination in your paper 3, there's a particular topic which talks about conservation, environmental pollution, degradation, environmental impact assessment. This also falls into the same area where we have talked about the tigers, right? From this article, what are we going to take? It is that what do you understand by forest fires? What are the different types of forest fires? Along with that, what are the steps which one need to take to combat forest fires, right? So there are basically 3 different types of forest fires. The first one is your crown fire. Crown fire is nothing but the fire starts from the crown of a tree, right? This is called one of the type of a fire. The next one is your surface fire. Surface fire means the fire starts from the surface, right? This is called surface fire. And there is a third one, that is your ground fire. Ground fire means it is on the ground, not on the surface. Ground means on the surface you generally get to see the leaf litters. When these leaf litters get to burn, that is called surface fire. But within the ground, if you sometimes the peat within the ground gets buried and the peat tend to accumulate fire, that is called ground fire, right? So in this context, this article has particularly spoken about the Simlipal area where they have taken tribal communities into consideration while combating the fires. If you look into the forest fires in India, most of the forest fires in India, we can easily divide them into various zones. In India, especially in the northeastern region, that is Assam, Manipur and Mizoram, these are the three states where the forest fire is at its peak during the seasons of April, May, June and March, right? Why? It is because in this season you get to see the leaf litter falling from the top of the trees. And the second zone is your Uttarakhand, that is Uttarakhand area, and third is your Karnataka. The reasons for the forest fires in all of these regions is different. Especially the areas of Simlipal, you get to see here you have a particular plant called mahua. This mahua plant, people generally go under the trees of the mahua during the early mornings to collect these flowers and bring out a local drink. From the plantations of mahua you get a local drink, and this local drink is generally consumed by the tribal communities which are present there. So mahua plantations ke subah early morning they sit under the tree and they lit the fire because it is still cold in the forest, and they wait for the flowers to fall. When the flowers that has been fallen from the top, they collect it and they make a drink out of it. So that's when the chances of forest fire being taken place, this is the major reasons in the Simlipal region. But in terms of Uttarakhand, Uttarakhand is an area where the rainfall is very less. Here the soil, if you see, the soil is mostly dry. Uttarakhand region, soil is dry. When your soil is dry, leaf litter that falls here, and at times the branches of the trees, they rub with each other. This leads to the forest fires in Uttarakhand. In Karnataka, Bandhavgarh region, it is the branch fire which you get to see the crown fires in general. So here the leaf litter are the major reasons for the Uttarakhand, and anthropogenic regions are the major reasons in the Simlipal. There are different reasons why the forest fire takes place in various parts of India. So there has been a study which has been undertaken that now it is time for us to take the help of the locals to combat forest fires. So it has been also told that we have to take the help of the women self-help groups, because if we no longer consider them as the developmental partners of the forest, it is very difficult for us to control the forest fires. Firstly, they have said that women self-help groups, if you take them and use them as the forest lines, if we can take their help and create forest lines. Forest lines are nothing but, suppose if in this area, this particular region there is fire, and now if you can actually demarcate this particular region from the next areas that are adjacent to these areas, the forest fire could not move from A to B. This is called forest lines or fire lines. The creation of fire lines is very much important. During the time of spring season, when the spring season begins, it is time for the women self-help groups to bring in and make sure that all the area that is present can be cleared from leaf and litter, right? When leaf litter is cleared, the areas can easily be conserved from forest fires. So, and it is very difficult once the fire erupts, it is very difficult for the fire to be controlled. It takes days and sometimes it takes months too, right? India has, in the year 2015 on the Paris Agreement, it has clearly mentioned that it is going to increase the area of the tree cover as well as forest cover to reduce the carbon sinks. Suppose we are on one side we are increasing the number of trees, and on the other side if you are actually creating forest fires, or if you cannot combat the forest fires, the efforts that we have put in to combat the carbon dioxide will go into vain, right? So that's the reason why the government of India is taking a serious consideration, especially in the month of March every year. There is a forums that are conducted, that is global wildfire forums, which are organized under the United Nations Convention, which is Global World Fires. Wildfire Forum. So this year India has chaired it, right? Global Wildfire Forum, which is organized under the United Nations. India has chaired this, so that's why forest fires are one of the important components for your preliminary examination as well, right? Let me take up your questions now. Which fire contributes mostly in India? See, in India, most of the fires that are the type of fires which you get to see, it is regionally specific. Mostly the fires are anthropogenic reasons. Means, suppose you are a forest officer and I am a person who lives in and around the villages. If I don't like you, in order to take revenge against you, what I do is I lit a forest so that you get into trouble. This is one of a kind of an example of an anthropogenic reason. And the other reason is whenever people tend to go into the forest, for example in Simlipal region, where they wait for the mawa plants to fall, mawa flowers to fall from the top, what they do is they sit under the tree all night and they lit their fire to save themselves from cold. Meanwhile, the fire can litter all over and it can get into ground fire. It is not about what type of fire, it is about different types of fires are present in India, right? It talked about the various areas, especially Simlipal, it is anthropogenic reasons. In terms of Uttarakhand, it is natural reasons. In Bandhavgarh and in the Western Ghats, the reasons are mostly natural reasons itself. Anthropogenic reasons contribute to the largest composition of your fire, especially in your eastern parts of India, right? These are some of the facts that have been mentioned in your forest fire activities. Now our next article which talks about is the article which is talking that because of the change in the climate, our polar bears which were present in Alaska, they are now moving to Russia. Poor polar bears, they doesn't know that Russia mein war chal raha hai, right? Jokes apart, see, it is said that from 2001 to 2010, around 40% of the total polar bears that are present in your Alaska, they have moved to Russia. See, if polar bears are moving, why do we need to worry? It is because whenever the species starts to move from one place to another place, it is an indication that the climate is changing, or their habitat, if they tend to change their habitats, it is an indication that your climate is changing. So these are an indication that your climate has been changing, right? Secondly, these polar bears, where are they moving? From Alaska to Russia. 30% of the increase in polar bears, it is found in Russia, right? The drop is credited to the polar bears migration to Russia due to Alaska's rising temperature. On an average, in the last 50 odd years, Alaska का जो temperature है, it has been risen by 4.5 degrees Celsius. Today we are talking about 2 degrees Celsius rise by the end of 2100, right? That means by the end of this century. Already Alaska has risen by 4.5 degrees Celsius in the last 50 years. If at all there is an increase in around 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, it will, the polar bear population which is present in Alaska, it is said that the entire population can actually migrate to little more northern regions. This is called shifting of species, right? This is called shifting of species. Shifting of species is one of the indication that climate is changing, right? See, the place that is associated with the movement of polar bears is Raki P, right? It is a place, I don't know the exact pronunciation, the spelling is here, please make sure to write it in your notebooks, right? It is this place in Russia which is actually attracting the polar bears. And one interesting fact, you should know that the article in the Down to Earth, it is clearly mentioned that your polar bears and penguins, they never lived together at one single place. So what are the reasons behind why polar bears and penguins, though they share a similar kind of ecosystem species which are present in two different poles? Your polar bears are actually present in your north pole and penguins are present in your south pole. Though they share a common habitat, they also live in the polar ice caps regions. Here also they live in the polar ice cap regions, but why is that polar bear could not pass from one pole to another pole, and why is penguin, it is not present in the other pole? the reasons it has stated that all these years they have thought that the reason behind the movement of these species is very much considered to be unknown, but now the article has clearly mentioned that there are various reasons why this species could not be found. It is said that firstly the evolution of the polar bears. The polar bears have been evolved only after the Antarctica has been formed, right? The main reason that no polar bears in Antarctica are evolution, location and climate. This means that your polar bears have been evolved only after Antarctica has been formed. So Antarctica has been formed during the movements of your continental drift theory. The continental drift theory says that all the continents have been at one single place when they started to move from one place to another place. It is that polar bear have been originated only after your Antarctica has been formed, right? And secondly, it is said that your polar bear mostly relies on ice. In the northern hemisphere, if you look into the polar region, you get to see less water here. But in the southern hemisphere, the polar region has more water. So less water, more ice. When there is more ice, it is very easy for the polar bears to hunt your seals. If there is more water, hunting of polar bear, it is very difficult to hunt a seal in the water. But when a seal is on the ice, it is very easy for the polar bear to hunt the seal. Similarly, your penguins which are present, they cannot survive on the ice as a whole. They need shore species, they need water as well as ice. So for long they cannot survive. It is said that even if the polar bears, even if the predators such as polar bears and Arctic foxes would limit their survival, there is no water in the North Pole for them to hunt because the ice is so thick, and migrating through warm waters to reach the northern hemispheres it is very much impossible for both the species. Though the water in the North Pole and the South Pole, it is very cold, but for migrating from North Pole to South Pole, it is very much impossible for both the species. Especially these species have been formed after the continents have been formed, not when the entire globe was at one single place, or during the movement or the drift of the continents they were not present. They have been evolved over a period of time, right? And the next article which we talk about is the Cauvery river water. There is a Cauvery river water tribunal as well as mekedatu project. ये भी एक काफ़ी न्यूज़ में है, आपको मैपिंग देखने के लिए ज़रूरी है, especially this article. Meanwhile, let me take up your question. How relocation would help, as they would be unable to adapt in the other conditions than they have been living usually. Why dams are given prominence despite their inefficiency in flooding scenarios prevalent in India. Okay, these are one of the good questions which have been posed to me in your comment section. I'll address them after we discuss the topic in detail, right? Firstly, let us look at the mekedatu project. Mekedatu project is a project which has been built, which the state of Karnataka wants to build at the borders of the Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Why the Karnataka wants to build this dam? It is because Karnataka, the city of Bangalore, is facing severe water crisis. If they can build a dam which is at Mekedatu, so that the water can be used for the city of Bangalore. But Tamil Nadu as a state, it is opposing the construction of the Mekedatu project, because if the upper riparian regions agar koi dam construct kiya gaya, then the water will be stored and the flow would be reduced, and the lower regions which are benefited because of the Cauvery river, they are no longer will have the same amount of productivity in terms of the crops. So this is the problem with the Cauvery river as the Mekedatu project, right? That's the basic overview. For our examination point of view, what we have to look into is the Cauvery river, the north and the south, the east and the west bank tributaries, and the major tributaries that are present on the Cauvery river. And we should also look into the major dams that are involved or constructed on the Cauvery river. Firstly, it is Krishnaraja Sagar and Mettur Dam, now a Mekedatu project which has also been thought to be constructed, but it is being opposed by Tamil Nadu and it is being put forward by the Karnataka government, right? See, this is the map of the Cauvery river. Cauvery river, it starts its origin from the Talakaveri and it passes through two states only, that is Karnataka, and it directly enters into Tamil Nadu, right? and all the tributaries whatever you see in this, you have a dam that is Krishnaraja Sagar Dam, as well as some important falls, that is Hoganekkal Falls is also part of your Cauvery river, and Mettur Dam, Sivasamudram Dam. These are the major dams which are in news articles in the recent times, as well as the upper circuit and the Grand Kant. These are the areas where which actually your Karnataka wants to construct a dam just above this place, right? So please make sure to look into the right bank and the left bank tributaries. I have detailed and listed all the right bank and the left bank tributaries here. Please make sure to go back and download this PDF from our Telegram channel, or the link for the description of the Telegram channel is just below the video which you are watching. That in the description you can get to see, right? That's it for today, guys, and before I end up with the session, I will be taking up your questions. Please let me, I would also want to tell you that tomorrow Snigdha ma'am will be coming and she will be taking up the international relations current affairs, right? She will be covering all the current articles which are present in the last 1 week, and let me take up your news articles, that your doubts here. Why dams are given prominence despite their inefficiency and flooding scenarios prevalent in India. See, dams has both positives and negatives. Construction of a dam, though it can take away the area that is important for the ecological significance, but at the same time dam can also prevent you from creating floods. Dam can actually give you the rights for irrigation in and around the area where the prominent area which is under dry conditions. So dam is always not seen in a bad light, it is also should be seen in a good light as well. The next question which has been asked is how reallocation would help, as they would be unable to adapt in other conditions than they have been living usually. See, this is a very good question that has been posed. The relocation of the Asiatic cheetahs are being considered to be taken from Africa to India. So if you look into the Kuno palpur tiger reserve, it generally has the same conditions which are present in your Africa as well. Cheetahs are mostly present in your grasslands. So Kuno palpur tiger reserve or Kuno palpur national park also has similar set of ecological habitats where they can be relocated, and relocation is not always successful, many times it has been failed, right? So it is just a one of a try which Indian government is giving it, so that relocation could be successful. And habitat agar dekha jaye, habitat is more or less similar habitat, but the biggest problem here is gene pool, gene diversity. African temperatures are different and Indian temperatures are different. So it is said that slowly, but not now, maybe in the near future, around down the line 50 or 60 odd years, when the new species that they tend to evolve or when they tend to reproduce, those species will tend to adapt to the local conditions. Immediately the species that have been brought, 8 to 12 species, it is very difficult for them to survive as well. There are intense efforts which have been thought to be put forward to the Kuno palpur tiger reserve. The vegetation has been increased there, the grassland ecosystem has been put to stabilization. So these are the kinds of efforts that have been put in. So what's the current status of Cauvery water dispute? See, current status of Cauvery water dispute is that Mekedatu river project, the dam project which is still under consideration by the Chief Minister. Today there has been an immediate meeting also that has been called in for, and we only get to know the reality after couple of days, but make sure for the preliminary examination point of view, left bank and right bank tributaries are very much important. Whatever I have listed on the board here, these things are very much important. Please make sure you go and download this slide in your Telegram channel, and please make sure to watch the tomorrow's class. Tomorrow Snigdha ma'am will be coming and she will be taking up the IR related current affairs. Thank you for today's session. We'll see you on next Wednesday. Thank you.